Well, hello. Welcome to the What's New in Stars of Akarios 1.5 live stream. If you're joining us, hey, welcome. Feel free to comment in the comment section. If you're joining us late, again, welcome here. This video will be posted in the update, everything. And so there's a lot to cover. I posted a pretty significant, just pulling it up here, a pretty significant update on Stars of Akarios 1.5. And hey, off the bat, thank you all for your comments, for your feedback. And I made a slight misstep. So let me confirm here. We will not be doing permanent stickers in Stars of Akarios 1.5. Okay, we will not be doing permanent stickers for the Galaxy Atlas in Stars of Akarios 1.5. Great, you've heard it here. I made the post in the update. Thank you for for your feedback. Like, I'll be honest, everyone, makes missteps, makes mistakes sometimes. Personally, this is where I personal judgment overrode probably what I knew what was best. I had said to coworkers like, hey, do you think stickers are the best thing for it? And I'm like, whatever. Like, I enjoy them personally. I like putting them on. And you know what? I completely understand the feedback from you, the community. So we'll find another solution, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I think there's quite a few different possible avenues that we can have in order to do that. And so let's get into it. Let's get into the rest of this. My hope with this live stream is just to provide a little bit of context for each of these kind of major 1.5 updates. And for those of you who maybe are just kind of meeting me for the first time, I'm pretty enthusiastic about most of the content that we make. Okay, oh hey, you can see Stone Saga back there. There's some Mithwin artwork, and actually a Mithwin prototype just kicking back there. And many of you might be wondering, it's like, hey, like, what about Stars 1.0? Like, why did you just go ahead and um why did you go ahead and just like make 1.0, and then we're making 1.5 here? Well, okay, so straight up, a lot of the kind of issues that we found were no, most actually weren't weren't kind of noticed until after. There's a few like areas, and we've addressed before, that I wish we would have done just a little bit more, specifically with the balancing towards the later part of the game, and with some of the editing, specifically of the rule book and scenario book. And so those are like, hey, yeah, okay, lesson learned, and we've implemented them in our future games. And so, but we wanted to come back, and stars at the time was an incredible value, uh, and and this isn't to justify anything, but we launched in March 2020. It was like right as the pandemic hit, and you could buy the core box for $75 US. The core box for $75 US. That is outrageous. 1.5 will be more expensive, because that price point actually hurt us in the short term then, and then we've had price increase since then. But I was super proud of the game. Akarios was 1.0 was a blast. I think it's a solid experience. I think it's really fun. I think it does have a few rough edges, and that's why we're back with 1.5. And so I'm really excited about this being like the definitive edition. And so for backers who are returning from the 1.0 campaign, one, hey, massive thank you for being there at the beginning. You helped launch us as a company. And so a huge thank you. And then two, I hope you've enjoyed the experience of the game since then. And then, finally, we are going to make a way for you to kind of experience this, some of the new content, and really the two main pieces that returning backers really need and I think want. It's the updated rulebook and updated scenario book. That kind of contains like a bulk of the changes, and then there's some cards, and we'll get to some of the card changes in a moment. But yeah, so let's I guess actually what might be nice is I'm going to share my I'm going to share my screen, and we can kind of just walk through. Yep. Okay, is this it here? Perfect. So we can kind of just walk through this, and let me just see if I can get a little bit bigger. Plus, 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 and then what's the difference? Yeah, I'll do this. Great. So Stars of Akarios 1.5. Right, big update, lots of changes, and I've talked about this one a lot. This is a revised rule book. We brought in Adam Baker, 10-year veteran. Who did a long stint at Fantasy Flight Games, and he still works on different rule books. He's done some big ones. The biggest game he's done, he's actually written the rule books for Mythwind, which I was going to say, let me get where are my Mythwind rule books? This is my Mythwind game. Mythwind rule books, they're kicking around somewhere. So he did those for us. He came in kind of in the 11th hour and redid those rule books for us, and he's done the same with the Akarios rule book. Really happy with the layout. We've reformatted it. We are adding some clarity where it needs to be added. A few little rewrites in certain areas, but it's overall going to be easier game to learn from the rule book, and all the kind of various components will fit together well. We're going to be sharing a draft to everyone first, and you'll be able to have your feedback. We love all that, and then we'll have the game. So nothing really more to say on that. One of the biggest changes, rules changes, right? This is where we got all the heat in the comments and the passion, which I love, is the space exploration rework. So previously, how it worked, right, was that you had this tableau of space exploration cards, system cards that would, as you would explore, you would kind of reveal more, and they already had the points of interest kind of baked onto them. Cool. Yeah, great. But there's maybe two kind of main issues. One, it was hard to know what you could do as a squad at a glance, right? Because you had locked scenarios and unlocked scenarios kind of revealed, and then after you completed a scenario, the point of interest, the skill icon would still be on the card. And so it's hard to know what was available just at a glance. So there's one, and then the second one is specifically in a few of the acts, it kind of became a little bit of a table hog that was hard to tear down and set up. It was a little bit hard to tear down and set up. So out of that came this Galaxy Atlas, and really what the Galaxy Atlas does is it takes those cards, puts them into into a map here, and into this booklet. And tentatively what we had were these stickers, and so as you discover locations that you're able to complete, you would place one of these stickers onto it, and each of these stickers right now have 3 different kind of scenarios. So you could play up to 3 scenarios with kind of one set here. So we're so you could do that. Fantastic, great. We're looking at a few different options, right, to adjust from the stickers, but really the whole point of this was that you could get into a game quickly. You can see where you're going and see what has been discovered, what hasn't been discovered, and really kind of simplify space combat, or space exploration in that sense. You still get a chance to do space events there's different system legends where you're still kind of moving the sparrow along, you're spending supply, you're kind of discovering the region, but it was at a glance you knew what to do, you could do it. So really, like I love how it kind of streamlines that aspect of the game with, I don't think, sacrificing any of like the discoverability parts. But yeah, hey, rightfully so. Permanent stickers is a tough thing, so we're going to look at different solutions. And I'm not going to commit to anything right now because this is a change that was today. So we'll quote some stuff. Some people have had some good potential options with either reusable stickers, some sort of dry erase stuff. There's card areas. Not 100% sure the best route forward, but we'll find something. I want it to be beautiful. This is going to have a lot of kind of lore for each of the systems, and and giving me some context about where you're discovering, where you're exploring, all that fun stuff. So that's the Galaxy Atlas. That's space exploration. If you have any more questions, feel free to kind of list them in the comments, and I'll get to them. But that was that was the big one there. And then the scenario book. Not a whole lot to say on the scenario book besides a massive round of edits internally and externally. Some of the edits is trimming some content, adding some context in a few places, and then like specifically, can I just zoom in here? Command. Oh, maybe no. I don't think I can zoom in anymore. So you have we're just going to flip, and this is where we're going to darken up this background a little bit. But we're going to flip the setup map to be the backside, and this is going to just allow you to set up the game a little bit more easily. We consider doing coordinates along the corners of the map. I just don't love how it looks, and how it's not incredibly elegant because it is a hex and kind of alternating, right? So we're doing where we're going to have this, and but if you still want to use the blank side, you can absolutely. So okay, I'm just going to zoom back out. Okay, so that is the scenario book. Really happy with that. Doing a bunch of edits, still hard at work on that, but excited. Okay, probably the outside of space exploration, the kind of biggest change that you're going to feel is the space combat rebalancing, and there's several different kind of layers of rebalancing. There's the whole player side. There's a few abilities, combination stuff that we're kind of tweaking, and then there's the enemies. With the enemies, we're doing a few things. One is we are making the elite enemies a little bit stronger, which kind of will help them scale up throughout the campaign. But we're also giving most enemies increased forward movement. This is really key because sometimes an enemy would kind of rotate towards a player and then would move off to the side, and then they would rotate again, and they weren't able to get in firing range. And so, what we've done is by adding kind of more forward movements, the enemies will actually get into kind of firing range of players more often. So that's like a kind of significant gameplay element. So that's a handful of combat cards. But besides that, we're also kind of adjusting some of the immunities so that there's more variety in the enemies, more variety in the enemy immunities, and because of that, it will kind of allow different play styles more often from the player's perspective, to spec into certain areas. And speaking of different kind of combat effects and specs, stun was a big point of contention. Stun could become overpowered with resupplying it, stunning enemies, resupplying it. And so this is still a work in progress, but the main kind of test that we're working on right now is seeing treating stun a little bit like we treat hull breach. And so hull breach in Stars of Akarios, it's a little bit like the bleed mechanic. If you get hits, you take a damage at the beginning of each turn. But with Akarios, you don't apply hull breach unless it does hull damage. So if you have shield, actually apply the hull damage. It's so yeah, you don't apply the hull damage. What you do with stun, well, what we're doing with stun right now is a similar thing. So the stun doesn't affect the ship unless it hits the hull, right? So if the stun damage hits the shield, it doesn't apply the combat effect. But if the stun damage hits the hits the hits the hull, then it will apply the stun effect. So that's like our current working. Where pretty excited about how that is going to how that's going to work. All right, little pause here, just to answer a few questions. So hey, Kit Carpo, you mentioned, I think Solar 175 has a sticker system and a recharge pack. A major game retailer dropped the ball on my order. Okay, so a different game with a sticker system and a recharge pack. Hopefully we can avoid having players having to purchase recharge packs. Hey, board game hype, great to see you. Great to see that you're excited, Devin. And okay, so Jared, talking about space exploration, streamlining is great, but I'd also like to see it expanded a little bit. And the original game seemed to me more like a vehicle to randomize order of scenarios. And then he mentions that he'd like to see it become more an impactful part of the game. I actually think there is quite a bit of design space for space exploration. And I'll be honest, it's doing a rework like this. There's a balance towards like, okay, hey, what do we want to rework, and what do we want to like kind of shelf as an idea for future content? And because the more we commit to, the more development there is time. Like there's a bunch of stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff at play. But Jared, I agree with you here. But there's a part of me that is like, okay, this is like, in 4 years, 5 years, Stars of Akarios 2 thing. I would love there, in the future to be like a full-on sequel to Akarios. But this is me speculating. I have no plans or anything right now. It's not even on kind of our roadmap of future products. And so 1.5, we're not going to be expanding it outside of the changes that we have already done. Okay, and this kind of leads into Dice Dexterity. Why 1.5 and not 2? Will there be another update? So really, I know naming conventions are really weird. We probably should have called this like the definitive edition. In my mind, this is like one of those patch updates. It's like 1.2, something like that, or 1.1. Like I don't know. When a big patch update for like an MMO rolls out and fixes a bunch of stuff like that. That's kind of like how I'm viewing this. It's more like we're designing Akarios here to kind of be like, hey, this is the definitive edition of Stars of Akarios. So yeah, the naming convention is a little bit weird. We're not going to create a new BGG page or anything. This is Stars of Akarios. So maybe we have to figure out our names a little bit. So we'll fix that. Okay, so that's space combats. That's the kind of majority of tweaks and changes. The idea is to overall increase the enemy power level as the player level increases throughout the campaign. So that's pretty significant. That's what we're aiming for. World exploration. Again, this is something that I personally like really like world exploration in Stars, because it is such a change of pace from space combat. And it's like 20, 25%, 20% of the game, depending on whether you choose to do world exploration or not. And but the thing is that some players don't like, they just don't jive with this type of combat, or sorry, this type of gameplay. And you know what? For me, I was thinking about that, and I'm kind of taking my mindset going into Akarios 1.5 here. It's like, okay, how can we maximize fun for the maximum number of people? Okay, so like, how can we maximize the amount of fun for the maximum number of people? That's like been the framework that I'm thinking of as we go back, because at the end of the day, I don't want us to like. I don't think the game takes itself too seriously. I don't think it should. But the combat, it's in some ways it's like it's a really fun like beer and pretzel, hucking the dice, rolling it. It's okay, so let me go on a little aside here. A little quick aside. Most of this is my fault. Um, so early on in the days where no one knew what Stars of Akarios was, I was like, hey, it's like Gloomhaven meets X-Wing. That was like the pitch that I made. It was great, right? It kind of gets your attention, and it relating something to other things that lots of people know. It's easy for people to kind of like loop onto. Uh, Really good in lots of ways, bad in other ways, because uh, I actually think that the turn to turn gameplay, and I'm speaking specifically of space combat, is so different than Gloomhaven that it's like it's not that great of a comparison. Okay, so the biggest inspiration would be the modifier deck, right? So that is like a hey, a great mechanic. We're going to kind of incorporate the modifier deck into this game. But outside of that, it's it's not it's like not the same type of game. Like like Gloomhaven, I love Gloomhaven, but Gloomhaven is like a Euro-y puzzle, right? You're puzzling out, you're trying to optimize, you got this kind of resource management of your hands, and it's like a brain burner. So you're planning multiple things ahead, and you're trying to anticipate everything, right? With Akarios, you're hucking your dice. You're taking a sip of beer, and you're flying around your ship in this dogfight where you're more reacting, right, on a moment to moment it's decision. You're like, okay, hey, you know what, I'm going to stun here, and you're coordinating with your buds, all those types of things. So like the moment to moment gameplay is so different. um I don't even know how I got on here from world exploration. But basically, kind of the full circle with world exploration, providing this summary feature. It was really like some people just want that like fast arcade style combat, which I think Akarios does so well. And for them, that world exploration was like an interruption to the fun that they were having. And so like, hey, if it's an interruption, I'm like, okay, just like go like you don't need to do it, I guess. like, like why as a game designer am I going to force people to play a part of the game that they're not enjoying? And so I played Sleeping Gods, by Ryan Lockett, with my wife. I don't think it was last summer, and there is a point where I stopped caring about the story. And whoa, Ryan, to quote my southern wife, bless his heart, he included these like TLDR sections where you didn't actually have to read a whole like bunch of story. You could just like get the snippets, get what you need, and then move on. And I'm like, gosh, there's some people who are just going to get maybe tired with this part of the game. I think lots of people enjoy it, but there's going to be some who get tired. Hey, cool, go to the summary, get what you need, and go on. So that's the whole reason behind the world exploration. Okay, so jumping in, just to answer a few more questions. Tuki says, will there be a separate update pack for current owners? Yes, there is, and I have more to say on that at the end, because there's a few questions that are going to arise. I don't know if this is Steve at One Stop Co-op Shop. Hey, One Stop, thanks for being here. I think we're actually going to be in touch with you. It'd be great to kind of send you some of this new content, revised content. You can kind of share what you think. We'll be in touch. DVC Bear asks, were there plans to update the app, specifically the audio narration? Okay, I'm very close to confirming this. Let me say this. I have a quote for a complete audio narration redo. Say that. I have a quote for app update. Okay, I have those two things. I haven't signed them yet, but like they've come into my inbox this week. So it is a work in progress. I don't want to like announce it officially because I haven't signed it. Money hasn't exchanged hands, all that stuff. But I looked into the app usage over the past year, and I was looking at the analytics, and I was actually surprised, pleasantly surprised by the number of people having the game. Um, so, or sorry, having the app and using it. Okay, so boom, we're good here. Let us continue on. Steve has a couple comments. Hey, for those of you who don't know, Steve is helping design one of the new expansions. And hey, Steve, this is actually a good reminder. I need to, in a month, I think, a few weeks, I want your help to write the next update about the new expansion. We have a lot of kind of fun content. This is really just a redo. There's a bunch of like new stuff that we have planned too, which is lots of fun. All right, moving on. This is like, I don't know if this is a quality of life improvement. This is just like a small basic thing. So one of the first choices that you make in the game is um, picking your pilot, picking your ship, and then right. I love those choices. You get the miniatures, you get the ship, which has different classes, very cool. But then you're faced with this other choice of then picking a weapon upgrade and an engine upgrade. And this is a hard choice. I always found that teaching the game to new players, they've never played a game of Stars of Akarios, and so they're unsure of how to use the like what they mean, like I don't even know what these cards mean, and you're making me choose between one of them or between four of them, right? And so I'm like, okay, let's eliminate that choice. Let's build preset loadouts for each of the ships. And for some of you are like, oh, this is gonna like remove customization, and no, it's not actually, because if you played Akarios, you've already upgraded your ship so much by the end of, like, I think even just the prologue, and then beginning of Act 1, you can replace everything really easily if you want. And so we're going to do that. But then I was like, you know what? Just to give a little bit more flavor for each of these ships, I wanted to upgrade the basic engine upgrade engine card. And so, for example, in this picture, Flank, you can't see here, but Flank has a push one, push one ability, and actually that should be a pull one. So Dan Hughes, we got to make that, but it has a pull one, and so you perform the Flank ability. That pull one applies to your next attack, and then you would attack a ship and you would pull it towards you if you want, and then you could attack it again. So there's like some fun combos that you can do, and we're just kind of giving a little bit of an upgrade for each of these engine abilities. That's kind of a fun thing. So that's the unique loadouts for the starting ships. And I don't know if you can see, but we fixed this player board. This player board, the repair action, the dice weren't joined, and so we're fixing that. That will be a sticker for those who are getting the upgrade pack. Okay, and this I think is leading us to the last upgrade card format. Updated card format. Last kind of significant change. So, Adam Baker kind of brought in, we're working through the rule book, and the big question, right, of, okay, hey, what is an area of confusion? And with the ability cards, we were noticing that there's an area of confusion of some of these icons being either being above the dice or being to the left of, like, in the effects section. And then we also have the stress abilities, and they would actually trigger at different times based off of what they were, right? The stress effect kind of triggers before or after this action here. If it doesn't, anyways, there's a bunch of things. And so we made a little bit of a hard decision to do a format change, and it's to kind of clear some of these things up. One is, right, we're moving supply up to the top, easy. We're moving all stress abilities to the top right with a stress icon. What this means is there's no longer a unique stress rotate symbol, because if the rotate symbol is up here, that means it's attached to the stress, which means it's a stress ability. Okay, and then any ability that is attached to the act, to like what you see here, which is the action, will be above the dice. Any ability that is attached to the action, so it's like you would perform it while you do this, and you don't really do that during move. But if this was an attack and you wanted to push during the attack, the push would be above the dice, right? And it would apply to that attack. But if it does not apply to this action here, then we kind of shove it over here. So we're laying this all out in the rules, but this is going to be consistent across all the cards. Really significant. It just makes sense. And it's one of those changes that like just wouldn't have thought of until you kind of step back. You come at it and you're like, hey, okay, cool. This is a good update. This is a good change. And you'll see maybe more examples of this in the future. But this leads us to kind of a big thing, and that's about the upgrade pack. And before we kind of dive into the upgrade pack, let me just answer just a few more of the questions here. We have Ronnie Brend. Would there be an option to get the minis and ships in a kind of painted shaded sundrop form? So great question. We're gonna look into it, but I don't believe the answer is yes. And the reason why is when the factory creates a mold for miniatures, they there's two types of molds. There's one that you can do this type of like effects with, and then there's another that you can't. At least this is my understanding with working with one of the factories. So I'm gonna look into it and see, but we're not gonna recast the molds for the miniatures. And if you're familiar with any part of production, that mold cost is so much. Like it is significant. It is way more expensive than the miniatures. Well, depending on how many units you get, but it is very expensive on a per miniature basis. And so we're actually using, ideally, right, when you do a reprint, when you do kind of a 1.5, some of our biggest savings is actually going to come from the fact that we don't have to create new molds. We already have these molds. So that's a non-answer to your question, Ronnie, but it's one of those things. The Glasses Push, interesting name, the Glasses Push. Will the new tray sizes accommodate sleeve cards, especially for enemy decks that get shuffled often? Sleeving is key for me. So the trays, let me clarify this. The trays are staying the same, but the card thickness is changing. So I actually have a card here. The cards were actually like significantly too thick, so they're like these were 350 GSM. Typically cards would be like 300 or 310 GSM. That over a stack of 50, 60, 70 cards will result in like a significant gap, which is the reason why the cards kind of sometimes they didn't quite fit all of them in the current trays. We won't be adjusting the trays to fit for sleeve cards just because close to having 1,000 cards in there. And we're unable to do that with our tray system. But I know there have been some very clever people who have found storage solutions where they create custom storage solutions where they do where they are able to kind of like they remove everything, they completely rework it. But for us, we're not going to go ahead and create a whole new tray system and increase the box size and all that stuff to fit sleeve cards, unfortunately. So hey, sorry about that. Okay, so let me talk about the upgrade pack. So let me get a little bit of iced coffee first. The upgrade pack is something that we're like 100% committed to. One, I want to do right by our early backers. Well, I guess that is the one. There's, we're going to price the upgrade pack in the most reasonable way possible, but we also don't want to have that price balloon. And so this might be where, I'll kind of pull the general audience, but my current thinking on the upgrade pack, and I'm, happy to kind of have this kind of changed and adjusted, is that it's going to include the rule book, the scenario book, the Galaxy Atlas, whatever we do for the sticker pack, rechargeable stickers, whatever it is. And then it's going to include the new and modified cards. So these are the cards that have like a noticeable difference. So if barrel roll has like a stun, right, we're gonna include that. But currently, what my thinking is that we're not going to include all of the redone cards. A couple reasons why. There are a lot. So let me list them. We have the weapon upgrades. I think there's 55. Actually, here. Just gonna get my trusty rule book. Okay, so these are all the cards that will have a graphic design updated. We have 32 pilot abilities. We have 30 ship ability. We have 30 pilot cards, 55 tech cards, 25 sparrow cards, 55 weapon upgrade cards, 55 engine cards. So the math on that, we have, sorry, let me quickly do the math. I'm going to do it on live stream. We have 110 with the cards, 142, 172, 202, 227. What's 227 plus 55? 227 plus 55 is 232, 282. Whoa. Okay. So sorry, this is my first time doing math. So we have 282 cards there. The enemy cards, 282, and then we had another 42 enemy cards. So that's 324. I don't know if they're all changing. I'm just going to assume. Yes, so 324 cards plus, I'm going to just say, I'm going to spit out a number. There would be approximately 340 card changes, 340 new cards. If you buy, I was gonna search it here. If you buy, I don't know. You could tell me. Like what is like an LCG? Like what's the Lord of the Rings LCG game? How many cards are in the base game? Lord of the Rings LCG card count. Okay, the core set has 128 cards. So this is like twice the amount of well, more than twice actually. Sorry, like almost 3 times the amount of cards that would be in the core set. So this is where I'm coming from. It's like, okay, this is ballooning the cost. Where it's like, okay, maybe, and I'm not going to ever tell people just, hey, buy a new copy of the game, but maybe there's a point where it's like, okay, you know what, it's actually just more beneficial for me to buy a copy of this game and maybe resell 1.0. I'm not saying like you have to do that, and I'm still kind of open to working on this, but the other kind of thing that I'm thinking of, because I understand, it wouldn't be ideal to have cards that look different than the other cards you have. And what I'm thinking is that we would just redesign the upgrade pack. So, there's not a whole lot of like card values that are changing, maybe a dozen. We would redesign those so that they're actually in the same consistent like format of these cards, and it actually, like, adjusting the format of these cards doesn't change like the rules. Like you can still play the game, and the rules are still fine. And yeah, so you see kind of where I'm coming from, right? I feel like there'd be some publishers who are looking at this and like, hey, well, screw this. We're not even going to do an upgrade pack, right? This is too much of a headache. And, happy to kind of navigate this and work through and see what fits best with the community. But yeah, that's kind of like, those are some of my kind of current thoughts, and thinking about, okay, hey, what's the price point? What's the best for the upgrade versus just, hey, buying kind of the complete copy of the game. Um, yeah. So Dicerity, is there any chance that the old locations of icons on non-change cards will cause confusion with the new locations for the icons? I don't think so. Um, and the reason why is that the format of the cards actually never, like, I don't think we really got any complaints. The biggest thing is, like, we went to write the rule book, and we wanted to be a little bit more consistent from card to card. And so we didn't want like a different set of rules for the engine cards and the weapon cards, even though they all kind of follow the same logic. Um, but we just kind of moved that logic around just a tad. And really the idea is, like, we want to like future proof it a little bit more. And that's a big reason for this change, for the upgraded card thing. So, this is still a work in progress, and I'll probably have a poll. Make sure you join the Facebook group, the Discord channel, all those types of things. And Jared's asking about, considering stickers to use on existing cards to bring them in line. For me, I would actually rather, give you cards. Sorry, give you cards instead of the stickers. um just because we won't be able to bring them fully in line, right? Just because that's too many full stickers. So, okay, that's like that's the biggest thing, right? So we're navigating, hey, what does that mean? What does this upgrade pack look like? And how will this kind of, we want to do our best by our backers, but then also want to make sure that we're um, making sustainable business decisions along the way. Wow. Okay. 40 minutes live stream. That's a lot of content. I am excited, and excited to share these 1.5 changes, because it's great. There's already like 8,000 of you who are following along to the project. So thank you. But I'm also like very excited to share some new content. And we've developed two. We're developing two expansions to go along this, two smaller expansions, that kind of have different feel, look. And so we're going to reveal those hopefully soon. Other than that, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a good weekend, and yeah, take care.